5, 4,
Stand by on the floor.
3,
Ready,
roll
camera
B,
3.
up on audio 1, dissolve B, and cue talent.
It's a new year and a new look for Catawba Communities. And coming up on the January edition of Catawba Communities, our school segment this month takes us to Newton-Conover City Schools and Shuford Elementary. Representative Andy Wells talks about new legislation for cheaper demolition of old manufacturing buildings. Kelly Shermer-Horn discusses Catawba County Home Health. And we take a look at the expansion of the Catawba County Justice Center. It's an all-new Catawba Communities, and it starts now.
The Catawba County Tax Office reminds all citizens of upcoming deadlines for tax payments and the holiday operating schedules for the tax office in Newton. Those who have not yet paid should remember that North Carolina law requires that interest be added at the rate of 2% for January and 3/4% for each following month on all tax bills still unpaid after 5 p.m. on Monday, January 6, 2014. Payments sent by mail must be postmarked no later than January 6, 2014 to avoid the added interest. For more information, visit catawbacountync.gov.
Catawba County's Justice Center and Public Safety Center is an important hub of just that, justice, and also a lot of what goes on with public safety. It was built in 1980, and over the next few years it's going to be undergoing a significant expansion. My thanks to Rodney Miller, who is Catawba County's Finance Director and also involved in facilities, for being with us to tell us more about both the expansion and some changes to the traffic flow at the Government and Justice Center because of it. Thanks, Rodney, for being with us.
Sure.
First, tell me a little bit about this Justice Center expansion. It's been in the works for quite a while, hasn't it?
It has. Actually, the process started back in 2007 when the Board of Commissioners asked the voters to approve an additional 1/4 cent sales tax to help pay for overcrowded in courts, the 911 Center, Emergency Operations Center, and the Clerk of Courts area. So in November of 2007, that passed by the voters, and the 1/4 cent sales tax has been accumulating ever since, starting in 2008. At that time, we formed a committee of folks that will be in the Justice Center and affected by the expansion. And that committee basically developed this plan, along with the architects, for the expansion of this center.
So what are going to be some of the features, some of the things that the public will see and be able to use once the expansion is completed?
Well, primarily we focused on the courtrooms. So initially there'll be 3 new courtrooms, 2 large and 1 small, both on the first and second floor of the expansion. We'll also build out a new Emergency Operations Center and 911 Center, as well as offices for all the emergency services functions, which are spread throughout the county currently.
Rodney, you've already mentioned that there was a sales tax voted on by the voters in 2007, and the funding's coming from that and the savings from that ever since. What are the estimated costs for this, and about how long is it going to take to complete?
We have a project budget of $40 million, which includes all of the construction, utility work, furnishings, equipment, and all the technology in the building. We expect groundbreaking in January, and the construction time is estimated for two years from that date, so we expect opening in January of 2016.
And while the construction's happening, some big changes to the traffic flow around our campus. Folks who have been to the Justice Center know that there was a road that ran all the way in front of it. Well, that's going to be going away, right? Tell me something about what's going to be happening with traffic flow.
On traffic flow, as the contractor takes the site, we will be eliminating the drive that goes between the Government Center and the Justice Center, where the current bus stop and flagpoles are. So to access the Justice Center, folks will need to be coming from Highway 321 Business to access the Justice Center and Sheriff's Office. For the Government Center and Jail, traffic flow will have to come from Radio Station Road. Those two will not intersect. Along with that, the new entrance and exit of the Justice Center will be off of the Sheriff's Office side, which is currently located on the south side of the building, because the contractor will be taking the front of the building with their equipment.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of changes coming, but once it's here, it's going to be some big impacts, positive impacts for our justice system. Thanks, Rodney, for joining us for this month and telling us more about this.
Sure.
As this process takes place and this expansion happens, we're going to be having a lot of information in the way of news releases, especially as the traffic flow changes and anything you need to know. Visit www.catawbacountync.gov regularly for the latest information, and we'll have it throughout this process, and certainly information about when the official opening will be and when it will be ready for public use.
As of January 28, 2014, your local government and educational channel, Charter Cable Channel 3, will be moving to Charter Cable Channel 192. You will need to have a digital cable box to view this and all channels. For more information, contact Charter Cable or stop by your local Charter Cable office. January 28, Charter Cable Channel 3 will be Channel 192.
I'm Andy Wells. I represent the 96th District, Northwest Catawba County in the North Carolina House of Representatives. After a big storm, before you rebuild, you have to clear away the debris. Here in the Catawba Valley, we're in the midst of a man-made storm, an economic disaster, and before we can rebuild, we have to clear away the debris. A look at our community shows what I mean. We drive by old buildings, vacant buildings, shuttered furniture factories, once filled by businesses. These old vacant buildings are the debris of our economic crash. They are privately owned, so why are they a public issue? Because public policy is standing in the way of cleaning up the debris by making the cost to demolish an antiquated factory higher than the market can bear. Here's how it works. Recently, I requested bids to demolish a long outdated building for a client. I asked the contractors to separate the cost of demolition from the cost of hauling it to the landfill and paying the landfill fees. When the bids came back, I received a shock. The landfill fees and the hauling of the debris to the landfill combined was as much as the cost of the total building demolition. That is one reason antiquated buildings are sitting vacant instead of being removed to provide space for new buildings. I sponsored House Bill 706 to help change that by reducing the cost of removing old buildings. Together with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, we drafted a law that would allow the owner of a functionally obsolete building to, in effect, bury it in place. We included protections for the environment, including setbacks from the water table, setbacks from the property boundary, and required enough cover to minimize issues resulting from rainfall. It cut the cost of demolition by 1/3 to 1/2. Longtime Catawba Valley business SureTape is using the new process now to demolish the SureSpun facility in Hudson. SureTape is also preparing the A.A. Shuford plant on Highland Avenue in Hickory for demolition pending a building demolition permit. We are encouraging others to follow that good example. Cleaning up an old building is still not easy and is not cheap. You have to check for hazardous materials like asbestos, and if any of those are present, they have to be removed. That hasn't changed. You have to file an erosion control permit in case you disturb any ground during the demolition process. That hasn't changed. You need a permit to demolish, just like you need a permit to build. That hasn't changed. I am, and I will continue to look for ways to cut through red tape and free the private sector to create jobs and economic growth in the Catawba Valley.
The Newton Parks and Recreation Department will begin registration on January 6th for the 2014 Youth Baseball, Spring Soccer, and Girls Volleyball programs. Registration continues through January 31st for returning players and city residents. For more information, contact the Newton Parks and Recreation Department at 828-695-4317.
Hello, I'm Kelly with Catawba County Public Health, and today we're going to be talking about home health care. In fact, I'm here with Beth from our Catawba County Home Health Agency.
Hi Kelly, thanks for having us today. Catawba County Home Health provides skilled nursing care in your home and allows you to recover with dignity there at home, surrounded by the things that make you comfortable.
Great. Well, it's certainly wonderful to be surrounded by things you know. Even better, you get to save money, right?
Yes.
Because I know that when you're receiving care at home, it's less than the hospital or a skilled nursing facility, and what can be better than being at home and saving money?
Absolutely.
Now I know that Catawba County Home Health serves infants to the elderly, but are there specific services that you offer?
Yes, we do all skilled services for nursing, including ostomy and wound care, IV infusions. We also provide therapy services such as physical, occupational, and speech therapy, and we also have home health aides. And we're super excited about a new program that we've introduced called Smart Moves, which is our new fall risk assessment and prevention program.
Well, speaking of falling, I'm happy to hear that you have that program, because I recently read that every 15 seconds, a senior falls, which leads to an emergency department visit.
Yep.
And even scarier, every 30 minutes, a senior dies after falling. So that program's great. And I think you've said in the past that it's actually a program that you bring out into the community.
We sure do. Actually, I come out to the area senior centers and we do an actual assessment of their risk of falling on paper. But our Smart Moves program really takes it a step further. It's done by therapists that actually come into their home and do an assessment not only of the things that are in their environment, but also them physically as far as their health goes.
Great. Well, then perhaps we can take a walk through today and you can point out a couple of items that the assessment might cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the first things that it's going to look at is whether or not you've got a clear pathway throughout your house to get to the areas that you travel to the most. A big issue for seniors is throw rugs.
Yep.
So we want to make sure that that's not going to be a trip hazard for you. Another issue that we see a lot is that people have small pets or they have grandchildren. Absolutely. So make sure any toys or items are cleared out of those pathways that you're using. Another thing when it comes to stairs is that you want to make sure that they have a safe railing for you to get up and down. Make sure they're clear of any clutter like oxygen lines or shoes or books. People tend to stack things up and leave it there because they're going to take it away later. So it can often pose a trip hazard or a fall hazard for people when they're getting to be up in age. So.
Sure, I can see that as a hazard. We're walking through the hallway, so I can see that for some people who might have physical limitations. Maybe they might want railings in the hallway.
Yes, or even in the bathroom, safety bars to help them get in and out of the shower. That's definitely a place where people tend to slip and fall because there's water involved. So if you've got something to steady yourself, it's great. And our therapists can look at all that and determine what you need to add, if anything, to help make things more secure for you.
Sure. And I see the kitchen here, and I'm noticing your countertops and stools and even tables. I imagine that you would want rounded corners that are visible so that you don't bump your hip or something into
Right,
it.
absolutely. Definitely want to make sure that you have soft things to bump against and fall against. If you do tend to have a tendency to fall or trip, you want to make sure that you mitigate the chances of getting hurt when you're trying to steady yourself and prevent that fall. One other thing is that in the kitchen, we always try to make sure that whenever an elderly person is cooking, whether it be in the microwave or on the stovetop or in the oven, that especially if they're handling something hot, they've got a place to put it in case they feel unsteady or if they happen to start tripping or falling. So that will prevent an injury as well.
Good tips. As we're walking through the house, I'm noticing lighting, and I would certainly imagine that you wouldn't want poor or dim lighting throughout the house because you might not see those hazards that we've been talking about.
Absolutely. Keeping all your light bulbs in place and making sure that they're the right wattage. And our therapists can even look at something as simple as that to help make sure. Do you need to add a lamp in a hallway? Or do you need to make sure that you change and add the light bulbs that are burnt out so that you can have a clear vision of where you're heading to make sure you're not going to trip over something or stumble or fall over something. So
great. And I think you've mentioned before the importance of having seating that someone can get in and out of easily, and that so that won't cause a fall.
Yes. You want to make sure everything's a proper height and that you've got good arm rests for you to steady yourself when you're standing. And again, that's another area that our therapists can help you with. If you need some adaptive assistance, they can look at that and assess it and see exactly what you need and when you need it.
Great. Well, Beth, all of these tips today have been wonderful, and I know that we've been talking specifically about older adults, but really all of the tips that you've pointed out could be great for anyone of any age. But how would someone take advantage of the Catawba County Home Health services, including Smart Moves?
Well, it's as simple as mentioning it to your doctor, whether it be our Smart Moves program or actual home health services. Just mention it to your doctor. Let them know about your concerns. Let them know that you've got a fear of falling or that you've fallen. So often people fall and they never tell anyone, and then they develop that fear that keeps them from doing the things that they enjoy and love. So being open and honest and communicating that with your doctor is the best way to access our services. With our Smart Moves program, he can order it, our therapist can come out, and oftentimes it's at no cost to you. It'll be covered under your Medicare or your Medicare supplement. Our skilled nursing services, in addition to being ordered by a doctor, we just have one other requirement, and that's that they be homebound. And that can mean that you aren't able to drive or that it's a hardship for your family to drive you to get the services that we provide. So those are the two main components of having access to our services, but they all start with your doctor.
And what could be easier than having a phone conversation or a doctor's appointment just to talk about it? So what if somebody just wanted to find out a little bit more? Could they talk directly to Catawba County Home Health?
Absolutely. We have nurses on staff, on duty, all during business hours. So all you have to do is pick up the phone and call us at 828-695-5849 and speak with one of our nurses. They can even help you access our services by communicating with your doctor on your behalf. And we also have a website that you can go and visit, www.catawbacountyhomehealth.com. And there's lots of great information there as well.
Great. Well, thank you, Beth. It's been wonderful.
Thanks for having us.
Boston starts in motion, give to Mike Patrick, inside Patrick, gets across the 10, Mike Patrick across the 5, gets down across the goal line, touchdown Bears! Touchdown Lenoir-Rhyne, Mike Patrick.
In recognition of the great season the Lenoir-Rhyne University football team had, the City of Hickory declared December 14th Lenoir-Rhyne Day. The Bears set the NCAA season rushing record with 5,563 yards and finished second in the final NCAA Division II poll. Hickory City Council member Bruce Meisner read the proclamation. For more information on the Lenoir-Rhyne football team, visit lrbears.com.
Do hereby proclaim December 14th, 2013 as Lenoir-Rhyne University Bears Day, proclaimed as the 14th day of December 2013.
Visit our Facebook page, send us a message, and like us. Facebook.com/Catawba Communities.
We're continuing our series on each of the public schools in Catawba County this month, specifically in one of the Newton-Conover City Schools, Shuford Elementary, here in the Media Center. And I'm pleased to be joined by Patrick Nelson, principal at Shuford Elementary. Thanks very much for joining us this month.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start off first with just some of the basics of life here. How many students do you have, and what's the size of your faculty?
We are at approximately 570 students, and that is kindergarten through 5th grade, as well as about 40 staff members.
Now, while we were setting up to do this, you were talking about some of the programs and emphases you have here. And you said one of them is called the 4 C's. Tell me more about that.
Yes, it's the 4 C's of the 21st century learner, and those are communication, collaboration, critical thinking, as well as creativity. And you will see those taking place in our classrooms on a daily basis.
Now, we said it was an elementary school, so you're K through 5, 5th grade, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Would you say you just have basically the same curriculum that other folks with elementary school kids, no matter which system they're in, have, or are there any differences here?
We have, our focus is on the Common Core and essential standards, just like the rest of the schools around us. You
were also telling me, though, that there's an emphasis on being tech ready. Is there anything special that you're doing to get them tech ready?
Within our classes, we have iPad classrooms, and in those classrooms, that's where the teacher will take the iPad and will use that technology in order to teach and enhance their lessons as well as student learning in class. We also have Chromebook carts, and we have those carts located in our media center, where teachers can actually check out those Chromebook carts, and they can use those within the student classroom to enhance their learning within the classrooms.
And also, you told me that this school recently was the very first in the system to get involved in a special program that's sort of athletics and fun. Tell me about that.
It's called the First T program, and the First T program focuses on character education, and that weighs heavily in on our school improvement plan, which is raising character education awareness with our students as well as our faculty. So we recently took a field trip to the First T program in Charlotte. We are the only elementary school in Newton-Conover City Schools that has taken that trip. It was a free trip, and it was organized by our very own Coach McCree. We took grade levels 2 through 5, and that was sponsored by our PTO because they are heavy stakeholders within this focus as well.
And you yourself, that was kind of a first time for you on the golf course?
It was interesting for me. Believe it or not, that was my first time even touching the grass on a golf course, and so I had fun with it as well.
Well, Patrick Nelson, thanks very much for your time this month. We appreciate it. And if you want to know more about what's going on at Shuford Elementary School, you can just visit the Newton-Conover City Schools website, Google that, and you'll find it. And from that site, there's a drop-down that has each of the schools, and you can have your mouse highlight Shuford Elementary School and find out a whole lot more.
Thank you for watching Catawba Communities. Catawba Communities airs every day at 7 a.m., noon, and 3 p.m., and Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. on your local government and educational channel, Channel 3 on Charter Cable, and online 24/7 at Catawba County's YouTube channel.